right, let's see if this is working. I don't know why, video is not coming in today. That's weird. Let's see what's going on here. I wonder what's up with the device. Let me check YouTube. All right. All right, it's kind of showing here. That's interesting. All right, so it is working. I don't know why it's not showing on the screen, though. That's odd. Huh. All right, give me a minute. Let me see if I can get this working over here, because now the app is not working as it should be. Let me see. All right, 1 second. That's weird. I can't see what I'm doing here. All right. I think I'm going to try to turn this, see if that helps. Because I think, for some reason, it's not having the... if I can get it working over here. All right, I'm gonna have to turn this around, see if I can get the camera working. Again, this is a new setup for me. It's completely dark for me, but let me see if this turns the camera around, because I'm trying to do this now with 2 cameras. This is the first time it's ever been just dark like this. That's weird. All right, let me know if this is... Yeah, it says the camera is working, but for me, it's not displaying the actual picture. And I think it's going to show it backwards. Like if I write something on the screen. Let's see here. All right, so it did flip the screen. I'm going to try turning that around and seeing if I can get this to work better this time. Now it should flip the screen. I don't know why it's not doing that though. That's really weird. Yeah, this is you guys get to enjoy a test over here. Well, this is a real pain, because I thought I would have to do this the other way, but it looks like... Okay, so now it looks like it is working, although it's kind of not exactly right here, but let me see. All right, so I'm running it with the backwards camera over here, but all right. Anyway, I think we'll see if this works. Hopefully it does, because this is a brand new world for me here. Just making sure I can't actually see the video here, so I'm running it on my iPad. Anyway, all right. Let's see if we can get started over here. Nice to see everybody there. Hopefully, I think this is coming in loud and clear. I'm guessing it is. I will try to keep my eye on chat, although I have to look down to see it. But I think everybody is able to see over here, Drew. All right, camera is working. Okay, it looks like it's kind of working over there, I guess. All right, and look at that, and the text is correct. So last time I updated the app and the text did not work properly, so I apologize for that. It is what it is, but I think we're working now. Okay, so I think let me see if I can move this over here. I'll move the camera. I think we should be all right. All right, as people may know, probably longtime fans of the channel know, I have a book that I've been working on, and I've got 1 chapter left. And one of the things I wanted to put in chapter 7 that I did not is a bunch of information about brain science stuff. So the way I've written the book, this is for people who have not read it yet, but this is about how, actually, I guess let me go back for a second even before I explain what the book is about. Here, let me move this over here. So that needs to be that way. Okay, I think we're looking better. This is hard because I'm trying to do this backwards. Anyway, so the book is about the problem that most people experience with learning, and I'll just go through this very quickly before I talk about the brain science stuff that I decided to remove from the book. So this is kind of like a bonus chapter here, but I didn't really need to put it into the book, as I'll explain in a minute, because the book already proves that these things work. You can actually experience that in the book itself. But for any people who are new, I wanted to go through this and very quickly why I wrote the book and the purpose of it. And now that I can write and actually show things on the back of the board here, it should be able to, people should be able to see it now. And again, I'll keep my eye on the chat here. So one of the reasons that I wrote the book, or basically the main reason, is that people have trouble speaking. And you can let me know if you have any specific issues with speaking here in this video, and I can go through and answer some of those questions. But the video in general and the book actually solves all of these different issues. But most people, when they contact me, either they are sending a message or an email or a comment on a YouTube video, even little comments like people have here. People typically describe issues with their speaking, like they get stuck and they have to translate or think in their head before they speak and organize sentences, and the language just doesn't flow naturally. And this is often for people who do understand a lot of English. So again, people have trouble speaking. But the second point here is that what most people either kind of don't realize or they don't think about it much is that these problems, and what I mean by these problems are like any issue that you would have with communication. So listening or any speaking problems, again, translating or forgetting words, that kind of thing. So these problems appear before these problems appear before you speak. So let's see, hopefully, I don't know why that just reloaded on me. I think we should be working fine though. But most of these issues actually appear before people speak. So people think they are, having like a certain issue with. Now, why is YouTube not working? That's weird. Yeah, I think it's working fine. Anyway, so people experience problems with communication, but these problems actually appear before you speak. So anytime you are thinking to yourself, or you are writing or trying to talk to yourself in English, if you have any of these questions or doubts when you're trying to do those things, then what seems like a speaking problem is actually a learning problem. And most people just don't realize this. They actually think that learning, and when I ask people, what is the purpose of learning a language? Like, what are you actually supposed to be doing when you learn? Most people don't expect learning to actually prepare them to speak. So it's a very interesting thing where for most things that people do, you're going to try some activity or a job or a sport or whatever. People usually practice and prepare before the actual activity. But in language learning, it's often not like that. And people don't really expect language learning to do that, which is weird. And so again, people have speaking trouble, but these problems actually appear for many people before they speak. So that means they're actually having trouble expressing themselves even without speaking, even before you get any pressure of communication, that kind of thing. So again, that means that these are learning problems and they should be fixed by learning. So in other words, most learning, like learning, is not doing its job. So for most people, learning is not doing its job. That's the basic idea. So again, when people assume they're going to learn something, but they don't really feel quite sure about using it, and then they want to start speaking, but they have lots of issues, they think the problem is suddenly I'm having difficulty when I speak, but often people are having trouble before they speak. Okay, so if you think about it, so if you have issues while you're speaking, you probably have issues where you wonder if you should use this word or that word, or if grammar is correct, or maybe you're not sure about pronunciation. These are all things you can experience before speaking actually happens. And so when you realize that, you discover, I can actually correct most of these issues, and it won't make me a perfect speaker, but I can solve most of those problems and it will make speech a lot easier. That's the idea. So everybody, let me know. I'm going to go back and see here, make sure chat is working. But this is the basic idea. So people have trouble speaking. That's the thing most people realize. But these problems actually appear before people speak. And so learning is not doing its job. And again, this is a very interesting thing about language learning, where people learn things, but they don't really expect, actually they don't even think about it, that learning is supposed to prepare you to speak. They just think you learn something and then, I got a bunch of ink on myself here. You learn something and then speaking practice is where you actually do the work of learning to speak. So it's kind of like learning doesn't really do anything. You have to actually get into the real world or immersion or whatever the thing is, and that's how you actually become a confident speaker. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. But this is what people assume is happening, and most people don't realize it. But this is where all the trouble is coming from. So because they again have trouble speaking and these problems appear before you speak, learning should do this, but most people don't realize that. So they're trying to push themselves to speak to solve those problems, because that feels like the only way to solve those problems. Okay? So of course, if learning is not doing its job, then of course, excuse me, you need speaking practice. And speaking practice should feel difficult. It should feel like a test. It should be hard to do, all of those things, but that's just in the kind of traditional way of thinking about it. But I wrote my book because I want to show people that it doesn't have to be that way. So you actually can prepare in advance for almost anything. And you won't be perfect. Nobody can be perfect, and that's okay. But you can be much better than you are, and it can be much more comfortable to learn because you don't need to wait for a practice partner. All of this should be happening as you learn, not waiting until you speak. So in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit, I've already explained the book generally, but this is kind of the missing content, stuff that I didn't want to put in the book. I initially did because I know some people like knowing the science behind the reasons or the way this works and the things that I teach, but for the most part, people watching my videos who enjoy learning with me, they just get aha moments and they understand the language better, and that's what allows them to speak. So if I can help people understand, if I actually do the job that learning should do, then people will speak. So it's pretty simple. If learning is not preparing you, then you will struggle to speak. And that's why you think you need speaking practice. Now, of course, the goal is to speak, and I want people to get out, but it should not feel like a test or practice. It should just feel like using the language in the same way you would be using it on your own. And again, most of the problems that people have, like stumbling over their words or getting stuck, all of those things really happen because learning is not doing its job. I want to repeat this, and I'm saying it in slightly different ways, but I want to make it very clear that there's not a problem with motivation or discipline or you feeling like you need more effort. It's really just that learning is not actually preparing most people to speak, but it can and it should. All right. So let me go back through chat, see if anybody has any questions, and then I'll go through and talk about these 3 points about the brain science behind this that I thought to put in the book, and I wrote all that, and that's why partly chapter 7 took a long time, because I was thinking about exactly what to say for that chapter, and then I removed a whole chunk of it. So this is basically a big piece of that. All right, so just looking at chat right quick here. I'm going to go back from... All right, so first of all, Tom, nice to see you there. Pardon me as I was taking a while to get this going. So you live stream every Thursday morning, don't you? Often I do. Lately I've been doing that, but as the book, as I finish writing that, I will probably not be doing that much. We'll see what happens, because most of the live streams I'm doing are explaining things and talking with learners and trying to help them really understand what I do. But most of the channel content going forward will really just be probably shorter videos of me answering specific questions or like helping people understand specific things, rather than talking about the kind of bigger theory or understanding behind what I do. So I've spent a long time doing that, trying to really help people understand what's going on with the way language learning works for what I do. But so going forward, I will probably, I don't know, we will see. But I think people are basically, I think they've got the idea. You know, there are lots of people who don't know who I am, who can enjoy the videos, obviously. But I think watching the videos, it can teach you a lot. But the book takes everything I've explained, and it makes it all very clear and simple for people. So all I really need to do is just prove that it actually is possible for learning to prepare you to speak. And that's just with kind of like the examples I've been doing. So we'll see if this continues to go on or not. It really depends on learners. But I think, I don't know, it feels like we're getting to the end of needing to do these, because again, the purpose of this has been mostly making sure people understand that the problem is not them. It's just that learning is not actually preparing them to speak. All right, let's see here. So camera's working, glad to hear it. We can hear. Long time no see, says Mo. And what is the best way to improve your handwriting, especially when you suddenly forgot the right spelling of a word? All right, well, handwriting and spelling are two different things. Don't look to me for handwriting advice because my handwriting is not going to be very good. Also, I'm trying to just write very quickly. I should have just like a monitor here I can type, and that way you can see everything nice and clearly, but until I have some kind of setup like that, this is what I'm dealing with. But as far as handwriting goes, I would just actually practice slowly writing letters. Spelling is a different issue. If you want to learn how to spell correctly, get Frederick. So that's the app. You can click on the link in the description below this video to get. So this is my system that shows you how to actually do these things, like learning pronunciation and spelling the same way natives do, but it's like a game, and you can actually discover these things. Actually, part of the brain science I'll explain in a minute. The second piece of that is the discovery aspect of how you're learning. And the more you can discover what you learn rather than someone telling it to you, the more you will feel confident about speaking. And so this is a very basic idea about learning, but brain science backs this up as well. And so, again, I don't want to talk so much about particular studies, although I've looked at many things, and it's always interesting to get new data from people about brain science and language learning, and it basically confirms what I've already found. But yeah, so if you're trying to improve your spelling, just click on the link in the description below this video. You can get Frederick there, and that will teach you how to spell. It will help you remember everything, and it will also improve your pronunciation, build your vocabulary, help you correct any grammar mistakes, that kind of thing. But it works very well for people. And so let's see. Hi, teacher. I am watching you while I'm working. Nice. It's always I'm always happy to see people watching while they should be doing some other job or whatever. Hopefully your boss or whatever doesn't mind you doing the work, or maybe truck drivers or something like that can listen to me as I do this. Yeah, this is weird. I'm trying to run this on the on my iPad, but it's the chat is running quite slowly over there. Let's see. And then Umbrella says, teacher, do you offer sessions to practice speaking with you? No, I do not. And the reason I don't offer any kind of speaking practice or like personal training is because it's less helpful than what I recommend in the book. And so you could spend a lot of money to try to learn with me, and it would be helpful. Like, certainly I can improve your English. But what people think of as speaking practice, they think of maybe saying something, but they don't really feel very confident about it. And then they're looking for a correction. And so maybe they remember that, and then it's a very slow way to improve. When if you actually just see examples of other people speaking, then you will understand naturally how you should be speaking and what is correct. And so that's exactly what I talk about in the book. So again, just since these questions will continue to appear, and this is part of the reason I've done these live videos, again, people have trouble speaking, so they think I need speaking practice in order to solve that. But what's really happening is that learning is actually not preparing you well for speaking. It could, but it actually does not. And so that's why a lot of people end up having issues and they look for speaking partners. But the solution, although it could come from that, even if I worked personally with you, you would still need lots of examples with other native speakers that actually train you for the unpredictability of real communication. So working with a live teacher can certainly be helpful, and it can teach you a lot, but speaking with a teacher is going to be a much different experience than even watching movies if you don't speak with other people, or if you do speak with natives, and you're going to be exposed to a wide variety of speech. So if learning is not reflecting what you would see in real communication, and we talked about this in the previous video, but this is another part of my book where I'm talking about the preparation gap. So if you are not prepared for what real communication is like, even if you have a practice partner or you get to talk with a live teacher, it's not going to be as good as seeing lots of basic examples or strategic examples that can help you prepare for real communication. So again, the whole reason I wrote the book is because people are looking for speaking practice to solve the problems that learning should have solved. So they basically just don't think learning is going to prepare them. So they need speaking practice, and that's why they look for speaking partners or private teachers or something. But even people who get private lessons still have the same issues because the learning itself is the problem. If you don't feel prepared as you learn, that's why you will struggle when you speak. So the problem is not speaking more. Certainly you can do that, and many people do because they think that's the only option. But realistically, if learning actually prepares you, you will feel confident when you speak. So that's what I show people how to do in the book. So before anyone thinks about trying to get private lessons, whether with me or anybody else, I would recommend you read the book and see what's actually happening and how it's actually very easy to fix most of the issues that people have, even preparing for the unpredictability of real communication. So again, I understand people would like to work personally with me, but the way I recommend them doing that is going to be much easier by just getting the right content. And so again, it's not about just listening. The point is, do you understand something and feel confident about using it? And are you prepared for real communication? So if you are, you will feel a lot more confident when you speak. But this is very easy to do by yourself. So even if you do not have a speaking practice partner. All right, we'll keep going here. Han Yen says, I wish you would live stream every week. I really appreciate your help. Thank you very much. And then Hadra, I wish you would live stream every week. I really appreciate your help. Okay, you wrote the same thing. Okay, again, it's kind of comforting, I guess, to do live streams, and maybe we'll see if I continue doing them or not. This is already a bit of a pain here because the app changed. I probably need to upgrade my phone now. Just because the app was working fine before, and then it forced an upgrade, and now it messed everything up, which is very inconvenient. I like to be able to do this easily, but we're doing, I guess, what we can with what we have. Anyway, so there are more than enough live streams for people to enjoy for years of watching content. But if you're actually trying to get fluent, it's much faster. Just get the book and do what the book is recommending, because that's the same thing I do for learning Japanese. I wish there was, somebody who could actually explain things kind of like I do for Japanese. Often I have to discover those things for myself. But because I use the same system that I teach in the book, I'm still able to improve, even though I don't have I don't have a practice partner or a private teacher or anything like that. I'm just able to improve my Japanese just by going through content in the right way. So it's much easier and faster to do it that way. So Gus says to have vocabulary list, category, or roadmap for people who are stuck at B2 level. Is it possible to have a vocabulary list? I'm sure if you Google that or even just ask ChatGPT if there's a specific list of stuff, you don't need me to give you a list of vocabulary. That's the kind of thing Google can provide, and I'm sure somebody probably already did. What I find for most people is that vocabulary is not their problem. They often think they need to know more words, but really people often just don't know their words as well as they think they do. So they don't feel confident about using that vocabulary. They know the vocabulary, they can understand it, but when they're in a conversation, their words just don't flow very well. And again, that's because learning is not doing its job. Learning is not actually preparing most people to learn. And what I recommend people do, this is what I talk about in the book, it's not a long or more difficult process. You're not missing a step. It's just actually focusing on understanding something rather than just trying to get more content. So I would imagine if you're already really good at learning whatever it is, like the level you are, and if your problem really is just a lack of vocabulary, then just start learning things like native speakers. You would pick some kind of content that you're interested in, whatever that is. It doesn't really matter about a particular list of content unless you're preparing for something specific. But I would just learn with whatever you're interested in, the same way I talk about in the book. So if you are at a particular level and you actually, you don't worry about grammar errors and you're feeling very confident that you can use the things below that, like below your level, so you don't have any basic mistakes in your writing or thinking or your speaking, then just pick some content that you're interested in, whatever you like, and watch a bunch of that. And you can read or you can listen or whatever that thing is, but that would be the simplest way to do that without worrying about a specific kind of vocabulary. Because most people will get exposed to the vocabulary they need for their life in a natural way. So if I'm learning to be a doctor, I will be hearing that kind of vocabulary naturally. Or if I'm interested in baking cookies, I will get lots of vocabulary naturally about that as well. So it's the same kind of thing. But yeah, I'm sure you can find, if you really want a list of a particular thing, you can probably find that online pretty easily, though. Let's see, and Mo again. Thank you, Drew, for your explanation, and really sorry I didn't mean that your handwriting is not perfect. No, like I say my handwriting is bad. I already know my handwriting is bad. Don't worry about that. I just want to make sure if there's a way to improve it or not. Yes, I'm just saying I don't want to give advice about handwriting because my handwriting is not good, but I would give advice about spelling and things like that because I know how that works, and that's why I created a whole app that does this. So I spent years actually using this same system to teach children here in Japan how to read and write and speak and all of that, and doing it with the same system that I talk about in the book. But this kind of part 2 we'll mention in a minute if I can get through these chats here, talking about the brain science behind the strangest fluency secret. It's really about discovery. And so rather than trying to learn a bunch of rules, if you can discover what those rules are, you really feel like you understand them better because you found that information. It's not something that came from outside of you. And this is, again, an interesting thing about how the brain works. I'm kind of talking about this content early, but basically if you understand something well, your brain recognizes that you understand it, but your brain also recognizes that you feel like I did it and I'm capable of doing this. And that additional boost makes the thing even more memorable. So again, if you're trying to discover things rather than just getting a list of rules, that's why I built Frederick. So people all over the world are using that. Adults are using it, children are using it, teachers are using it, because they can actually just let the user improve by themselves without like the teacher needing to list a bunch of rules. You discover things for yourself, and that discovery makes it a lot easier for you to understand the content and remember it. All right, yes, so Tom is telling people, Tom is Frederick's biggest fan, I think. Thank you, Tom. Let's see, Wakil says, how to improve the spelling problem. Okay, I guess if we got people talking about spelling, just get Frederick. So I'll tell you Frederick. So just click on the link in the description below this video. You will see a link for the pronunciation and spelling app, Frederick. You can get it on the App Store or Google Play. Just download it. You can start playing with the first 3 levels and see exactly how it works. It's very easy. And again, you're just playing with sounds and discovering not only pronunciation and listening, but the rules of spelling. So it's actually not that complicated if you understand it the same way natives do, but Frederick allows you to discover these rules yourself by playing with the language. So I can look at different sounds like bit or bid or big, and your brain, again, is being able to understand these things much more easily because I have something simple to compare. So we got it's the same sound for all of these things, bit, and only the last letter is different. So we've got bit, bid, and big. And as you hear these sounds, your brain comes to understand, okay, this kind of combination sounds like this, and now I understand how the spelling rules work. But we go from basic things like this all the way up to more like difficult words like, synthesis. Like, I'm not even going to take time to write this, but again, like more like apocalypse or synthetic or exoskeleton, other things like that. So as you go through the app, you will learn all of those spelling rules automatically. You will be better than a native, I bet, because natives are often bad spellers because they kind of go through things, but a lot of the traditional way people learn spelling is just getting rules from a teacher. But now more kids are able to use Frederick and actually discover these things themselves, so they're able to learn how they work. And it just kind of, again, the brain science stuff we'll be talking about in a minute, it makes a lot more sense that way. So Tom says, when I speak English, I stutter a lot. Do you stutter in your native language as well, Tom? Or is that only in English? If it's only in English, then that's more a learning problem than a stuttering problem. But it would be interesting to know that. Hanya, and again, what do you think about studying English the way native-speaking children learn it? Well, I mean, if you're talking about studying English the way children learn it, and this is what I talk about in the book. So children will spend a lot of time with content. And so what you'll see is like, let's say we have a child here and they're watching a TV show. Look at that, I'm old. I actually put the antenna on the TV still. So the child is watching the TV show over here. Depending on how old the child is, they will probably not understand most of it. So the first time they watch it, maybe they understand, 50%. It depends on the show, I'm just giving you'll understand the idea here. So the first time a child watches a TV show, maybe they understand 50% of it. Now, an interesting thing about children is they can watch the same thing again and again and again, and they don't really care because each time they're actually learning a little bit more. So let's say like on like Monday, they watch the TV show. The first time they understand 50% of it. And then maybe they go to school and they talk with their teacher and their parents or something like that on Tuesday. They come back and watch it again, and now they understand maybe 60% of the show because additional information they got between these two times helped them understand even more. Or they just noticed a bit more the second time that they did not notice the first time. And so what happens is children are going through and it's like an algorithm or like a 3D printer. So it's putting layers of information of understanding on there so that over time this is how people do it. Now, adult native speakers don't really have this kind of time for the most part. People are busy or they have other things to do. You don't want to be spending all day like watching something and not understanding most of it. So again, a young child can watch a movie and not understand a lot of it and still watch and enjoy the movie, Like a character falls over and that's funny for the kid, even if they don't understand what the character is saying. Or there are some jokes in the movie that are for parents and kids wouldn't understand it anyway, So again, an adult is just a different way of learning. So what we're looking for is a hybrid of these two things. So if a child is learning things, what's actually happening when a child is learning, if you look at a time scale, like they're spending a lot of time getting content, but there are actually specific moments where that understanding gets in and the child realizes something, those aha moments that everybody has when they're learning, and the child just gets those periodically. And it's depending on how good the content is. The content, if it's understandable, it can give you more aha moments faster. But for most children, they're not understanding a lot of what they're learning. Like if you have a child in a house and they're listening to their parents talk about stuff, they don't understand most of what the parents are talking, like the parents are talking to each other. The child is like, I don't know, they're talking about politics or war or, whatever the subject is that the child just doesn't know much about. And so adult English learners or adult, learners of any language, we don't really have patience for that. It's very difficult for me to watch a movie without subtitles on it. Like if I were to watch a movie in Polish and I don't know Polish or Chinese or Swahili or whatever, I'm watching a movie with no subtitles and I don't know the language at all. I'm just like, okay, I can kind of watch the pictures and maybe it's interesting for me, but because I don't understand what people are saying, it's frustrating for me. So again, what we're looking for is a hybrid that helps us understand like a child, where we are connecting with the information without needing the translations. But we don't want to be wasting our time. We want to be getting the aha moments as efficiently as possible. So that's what I talk about in the book. So if you're trying to learn like a child, and I do recommend people learning like a native, it's better than learning like a student, but we should be looking for that hybrid approach where we're learning the way a native would learn, because it's not using any translations. That's really the most important part. But it's understandable, and it's actually giving you those aha moments that you feel like using the language. So you're not just understanding here. I know people talk about comprehensible input, and they kind of stop there. They just talk about input. But the reason for the input is to make you feel sure or certain about using things. So if you understand, but you still don't speak, then it means there's something you're still missing, like an answer to a question or something like that. And so often as children are watching things, the first time, maybe they don't understand it. The second time, they understand a little bit more. And so, again, we want to make the learning as simple as possible so that we actually feel sure about using the language. I don't want to just understand the content. I want to feel like, I could use this now. And so that's, again, the reason I wrote the book is because I want to show people that you can do this even before you speak. So the point is not to know something a little bit and then you struggle to express yourself, and then you think you need more speaking practice or more vocabulary or whatever, but you're not really solving the core problem of just, I have unanswered questions about the language because learning didn't answer them for me. And again, you can think about, it's the same idea with natives. So children are watching something, they don't understand 50% of it. That means they still have questions about what they're watching. They don't know what the vocabulary is or how to use it. And it's just over enough time, if you spend enough time, you can learn that way. But that's not a really practical way for people to learn. And that's not what I recommend people do, because you have no control over whether you are improving or not. You just hope you improve. You hope if you spend enough time watching enough movies or things like that, you will improve. But if you understand what's happening, like why you improve or why you do not improve, it's a lot easier to get content that will give you those aha moments so you feel sure about using your words. That's the idea. So we don't need to think about like learning like a native. It's taking that part of understanding in English, but still making sure we're understanding in an efficient way so we feel sure about using our words. All right. So most of the people watching my content are here because they actually want to speak. They don't want to just understand things or follow other people. They actually want to have conversations. Right. Let's see here. All right. How to improve his spell. Okay, I answered that one already. Did you watch the Super Bowl? I didn't. No. I'm in Japan, and I kind of forget about American sports events. I only knew about the World Series because there were many Japanese players that were in it. And now, like, there are even more Japanese players coming to the United States. So I hear more about American baseball. But I used to follow sports more when I lived in America. But now I don't really know what's going on, honestly. I don't know who won the Super Bowl. I don't know. But I used to enjoy, just the kind of fun of the Super Bowl, even if I wasn't, even if I didn't care about, the teams or whatever. I enjoy playing sports, but I don't really sit down and watch much of them anymore. Let's see. Why is this? Something is up with chat here. Yeah, this is it's really weird that it's not displaying this properly. Here, give me a minute. Let me erase this. All right, it's taken some time here. All right, let's see here. So we've got, let me go back up here. Okay, it looks like I missed like a couple of these. Morgan, thank you. When did I miss somebody here? Okay, the Super Bowl question. All right, so please speak more about learning as you were saying. Please speak more about learning. Again, I'm giving a kind of general explanation about this, but I wrote the book because it explains everything and goes into detail about how everything works and why it works. And the learning system itself is actually very simple. But the problem is many people still think they need speaking practice to improve when, yes, speaking practice is nice, but a lot of people can't speak and they feel stuck if they don't speak. But even before that, the deeper problem is that learning is not actually preparing people to express themselves. So of course, people are feeling stuck and thinking that, well, I guess if learning doesn't really prepare you to speak, then maybe speaking practice is the only thing you need or the only thing that can help you. But I show you that that's not true. So it's interesting the way I wrote the book. The first 4 chapters are really explaining why a lot of traditional learning doesn't work, but that it actually can. And so if you can actually learn things, and this is why I demonstrate this again and again in my videos, showing people that if you actually feel sure about your words as you learn, then you will be a lot more confident when you speak because now you actually feel sure about using the vocabulary. And so in Chapter 7, one last point I'll mention about this is the preparation gap. So anybody who has already read Chapter 7, let me know what you think of it. That chapter took a while to create because there are many different pieces of it. But again, learning is over here for most learners. And speaking is like a different environment for most people. So the vocabulary is different, the speakers are different, the speeds, the accents, pronunciation, a lot of these things are completely different. So we have a preparation gap in the middle where people are learning things that are not like speaking. And when learning and speaking feel like different things, that's why it's going to be much more difficult for you to prepare. And most people learn this way. They practice things or they get translations, and then when they get into a conversation, it's like a different language or a different world. But if you can make them together, like learning should be basically right next to speaking, or even, you could think about these as kind of overlapping each other. If you make learning like speaking, so for example, if I know in the real world I will hear lots of different accents, that means when I learn, I should hear lots of different accents. And again, the reason for doing this is not only to make it the kinds of things you will get when you're speaking, but because it's much more comfortable to prepare for those things without the pressure of speaking practice. So if you don't feel nervous while you're learning because you're just learning things and hearing lots of different people by yourself, you don't feel any pressure, and it's a lot more comfortable, and it's just a faster and easier way to do it because you don't have to wait for anybody. You can just learn and feel prepared by yourself, and then when you're ready, then you start speaking. But it's a lot easier because you've already prepared for the kinds of things you will find in real conversations. So one of the many things that people, they kind of don't realize is that the language is only one part of what you need for actual communication. You need to be prepared for the unpredictability of all the different accents and speeds and the variety of ways that people will respond. But the good news is you can do all that before you speak. So if I know I'm going to be, like, let's say I'm in business about, I don't know, like I'm an eye doctor, okay, for example. So I'm an eye doctor specifically, and my English is okay, but maybe it could be better. If I know I'm going to a conference with eye doctors next week, a good thing for me to do would be to watch some content about other eye doctors describing things on YouTube while I'm at home and relaxing, and I can hear these different people with different accents describing these things. So when I get to the real conversations at the conference, it will feel natural because there won't be this big gap between the learning and the speaking. It's not like I just read some things in a textbook and now I'm going into a conference with a whole bunch of different people. I've actually prepared for that conference before the conference. And it's nice and easy, and I can do it whenever I want to without waiting for a speaking practice partner. So again, that's the idea of actually learning, preparing you to speak. Most people just don't think, they don't even think about it really. And when you ask them, what is the purpose of learning in language learning, they don't really have an answer for that. They're just like, well, I guess, you learn things, but then it's your responsibility to go practice it. And I say, why is that? Why is it your responsibility to practice it? And the answer is because learning didn't prepare you to use it. So they're making it seem like it's your fault when it's not, when learning actually just did not prepare you. So it's such like a big problem that people can't really see it very well. That's why I wrote a whole book explaining all this, because again, it's a very simple thing when you can see it, but before you see it, it just looks like learning is difficult. Speaking feels like a completely different thing because I have no way to practice speaking for that. But if you know how to learn, you can actually prepare for learning before you speak. That's the idea. All right. Again, anybody asking about that? Let's see. Cierto says, there's more to fear from the living than from the dead. I've never forgotten these interesting lines you said many years ago when I was trying to become fluent in English. Now I am. Thank you, sir. Well, that's fantastic. Glad to hear it. Yes, that line comes from my old babysitter, and this is an interesting story. I shared this. I think maybe it was also in a Fluent for Life lesson, but also I think here on YouTube. But yeah, I remember that well as a child. You have more to fear from the living than you do from the dead. And this is while I was in a car and my babysitter was taking me to her house. My sister and I were going to stay at her house for a little bit. And her house at that time was near a cemetery. And we were driving past it, and I said, "Oh no, aren't you scared that you live near this graveyard?" And she said, "You have more to fear from the living than from the dead." And I thought about it. I said, that's probably true. And I guess if you believe in ghosts or whatever, maybe that's not true. But, in a practical way, yes, like, a graveyard is probably one of the safest places you can be. All right. Now, let me see here. Chat is still not cooperating. All right, let's see. That's very helpful, sir. Many thanks. Glad to hear it. And Claire says, how many pages does your book have? Thank you. Currently, I think it has 130. And then with chapter 8 included, I don't know, maybe that will be another 20 pages, I think. So I'm trying to keep it under 150 pages. I don't want it to be a long book, but people can tell me how long it's taken them to read the book. Like if you got it recently and you went through all 7 of the first 7 chapters. So there'll be one more chapter left, but it's not that long of a book. Again, this is not a complicated idea, but I really want to make sure people understand it. And I even, again, am removing content from the book because I wanted to make it shorter. And so, again, I'll mention this stuff very quickly here in just a minute. So Wakil says, thank you very much. Is it different from how adults study English, or is it basically the same? So, yeah, I mean, I explained how an adult could learn English the way a child does, but it would not be practical, and the adult would probably be very frustrated very quickly, because you would be watching stuff and you would not have the same kind of patience. And it's not even really that a child has patience. A child is just kind of watching something and they don't really know what's going on, but they don't care. But an adult usually wants to know what's happening. They want to know why, what's going on, what is the point of all this. They have lots of questions about how stuff works. And again, that's a big difference between adults and kids. So what we need to do is work with that. As an adult learner, we need to answer those questions. And again, it's the questions people have that stop them from using something. So if I'm in a conversation and I'm like, okay, is the preposition at or in? If I don't know which of these, then that's a question I have that is stopping me from speaking. And it seems like a small thing, but even a small block like that, even one small thing can stop you from expressing yourself. So even if you know the words, even if you understand when other people are talking, if you don't feel sure about things like this, then you will struggle. And basically the reason people don't feel sure is because they didn't get that opportunity while they were learning. So maybe they got a translation of something, they got a little bit of exposure to it, but they still have questions about it. If you still have questions, learning did not prepare you. So learning should prepare you, but learning did not. But this is such a big problem, and so many people experience it, that everyone mostly thinks this is just a natural thing about language learning. People think learning happens, I don't really understand, so now I need to speak, and speaking is where the real learning happens. That's where they think those questions actually get answered. But if you can't speak, or you don't have opportunities, or you feel shy or whatever, then obviously this is a very difficult position, because what can you do? Learning is not helping you, and speaking is not helping you either. So how do you get fluent? You're stuck. But the truth is, learning actually should be preparing you for most things, and it can, especially if you know how to do that. So you don't have to do kind of a little bit of learning, and that's not real learning. We're waiting for the speaking practice. The speaking is the real learning over here. And this kind of learning, like studying with a textbook or whatever by yourself, that's not actually helping you. But it should be. This is where you actually should be answering most of your questions. You should not be speaking and having trouble using your own words. Because if that's true, then that means like you can't even have an ability to write or to think to yourself or to talk to yourself either. So again, the experiences that people have with learning, it's usually a frustrating and painful thing for people because they don't actually feel sure about what they want to say. They just have questions about stuff like, should I use this preposition or that one? Or what is that phrasal verb? Or how do I express this? Or does this sound natural and native? If you don't know, you could get that answered actually while you learn. You don't need to wait until you have speaking practice in order to do that. Speaking should feel like the natural next step after you understand something. It should feel like that. But most people, it is not, because again, like everybody just assumes language learning is like this. So people think Language learning should be a long and frustrating and difficult process. But why? It doesn't have to be like that. And hopefully people who have gone through my book already, many of them have told me that they realized how they could actually improve, and they felt much better about that. So that's why I wrote the book, and I've been teaching these ideas for 20 years, but I wanted to have everything in one place so people could see exactly how it works. So it should be the total less than 150 pages. And people can get the whole idea of how it works, and it's quite simple to do. And let's see. Ty says, "Is your speaking speed in the live stream the same as when you talk to other people, or is it slower?" It depends. So I'll change my voice or my speed or my vocabulary depending on the people I'm speaking with. So right now, yes, I am speaking a bit more slowly, a bit more clearly, and this is another reason why, even if you have private lessons with someone, an English teacher will typically make their voice clearer and easier to understand, because they're trying to make the language understandable. That's the whole point. But it's different than the kind of training, the kind of practice you need, like the Naturally Varied Review that I talk about in the book, in my videos, where you actually need exposure, systematic exposure, not just random content, but hearing different people, for example, say the same thing. So listening to me talk about something, like in a Fluent for Life lesson set, you will hear me talk about something, but then you will hear other people talking about that same thing as well. And they're not speaking intentionally clearly. They're just having a regular conversation with me. And you will hear different voices and different speeds, because I have to prepare people for what real communication will be like. It's not just like this is learning, like every other learning is all the same or whatever. Either you are preparing for communication or you are not. Either you feel sure about using your words or you do not. So it's pretty simple. You can actually tell if learning is helping you or not, because either it is answering your questions or it is not. And most learning is leaving people with questions. And again, it's not like anybody's fault. It's just, it's such a big problem, people don't realize it anymore. So there's like an English expression, maybe other people have this in various languages. It goes, I'll just write it here, fish discover water. Fish discover water last. Fish discover water last. And maybe that's rephrased as different things, but the fish is swimming in water, and it doesn't think about water at all. It's just like, that's what it is. But if someone comes and tells the fish, hey, like you got all this water around you, they're like, what? What are you talking about? So it's like the last thing they would think about, because it's all around them. And so in language learning, it's the same kind of thing. Everybody just expects that learning is not really going to help you speak. Everybody goes to school, they take classes like I did. I took many different language classes at school in different languages, and they were all the same way. Everybody complained about the classes. Nobody wanted to go to them. Nobody was learning anything, and people were just like, what am I doing here? You listen to a teacher explain stuff, but it's not helping you speak. Maybe you memorize some stuff for a test, but that's the experience that almost everyone has. People don't expect learning to actually be helpful. It's a really weird thing. And I was talking about this with my wife this morning. Like, if I go to a restaurant and I'm expecting that restaurant to actually cook me some food, that's the point of a restaurant. But if I go there and they give me a recipe and some ingredients and tell me to cook the food, then I will be thinking, like, why did I come to a restaurant? I can do that at home. Like often a classroom teacher is no different than a textbook. You're not actually feeling more sure about using the language. But you can. That's the thing. Most people just don't realize it. So fish discover water last. Most people don't realize that you actually can prepare for communication before you speak. They just don't think it's possible. It's not even that they don't think it's possible. It's just most people don't expect that to happen. They're not even thinking about it. Just like a fish doesn't realize it's in water. It's just swimming. It does what it does. Hopefully that makes sense. But I thought about this a lot as I was writing the book. And again, when people say that they have speaking problems, what they actually mean is that they have questions that they haven't answered. And so those same problems are probably appearing when they think or write or try to talk to themselves. So you as a learner, if you have problems speaking, think if you also have those same problems when you talk to yourself or when you try to write something. So if you're writing something and you wonder, like, is this correct or whatever, it's the same problem that will stop you in a conversation. It's just like a quieter problem that most people don't really think about. They think all the problems happen when you get into a conversation. But for the most part, these issues are hitting people before they speak because learning is not actually answering their questions. All right, let's see. Teacher, when I listen to some Americans like Donald Trump, I feel like I can hear most of their speech. Yeah, so some people will be clear and some people will not be clear. So if you listen to a wide range of people, you will be more prepared for that. That's the idea. Let's see. Plato in language, how long it take to come over a Plato in language? How long it take to come over? What does that mean? Are you talking about like being able to read Plato in English or something? Or Greek, I guess, or or whatever? Let me know what you mean by that. All right, so brain, let me try to remember the center of the topic and the content describing things. Yes, it works like nucleus and surface of things. You said it last time, something like that. Oh, are you talking about Francisco, well, I mentioned that this video is supposed to be about the kind of missing content or the content I removed from chapter 7, but I thought I would share, and I'll just do this very quickly so I don't spend too much time doing this, but yeah, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm just trying to get through all these comments. It looks like these are the last ones, though. Ty again says, what do you think about this? I listen to your English every day at a slower than normal native speed when I listen to other native speakers who speak at a normal or faster speed. Again, like, you try to think about learning as answering questions for yourself. So you don't need to ask me if like what should I do to learn? It's more, what questions do you have? And a question could be, how can I understand fast native speakers? And so what you want to do is, like, maybe you watch a movie, but you can listen to it like a slower version of it. You can lower the speed, make it slower. You can read the transcript first so you actually understand what the words are. And again, that will train you much better to help you understand those things. You don't have to feel bad about using subtitles. It's perfectly fine to do that. Again, the point is to help yourself understand. And even native speakers, like I watch Japanese TV, it's got lots of writing on it for native Japanese speakers, so they can understand what people are saying. And Japanese TV is actually really interesting for this. Like, it's a much more kind of inclusive, I guess you could call it, way of helping other people understand the culture. So if I'm watching a TV show and one person makes a joke about like a certain character, like the TV show will actually show who that person is that they're talking about. Often, not all the time, but it's a common thing. And so yes, like, you want to help yourself understand the content better. It's okay to watch the subtitles. And if you listen to me talk about something, you could also listen to somebody else. But in terms of learning about language, it's fine to listen at any speed. It's just you're trying to understand how language learning works. But once you know how it works, then spend your time with specific content around an idea or topic. And that's the naturally varied review that I talk about in the book. So I would watch, for example, like the espresso video I made on my channel, where I have a couple of different people talking about how they make espresso. And as I watch each of those videos, I'm learning the vocabulary better. I'm getting used to different accents and different ways of speaking, or different ways people can describe the same activities. So all of that stuff comes as you're trying to figure out what is the thing your brain still has trouble with. And that's actually the third part of the brain science thing. I need to get to this quickly, though. You guys are coming at me with these comments. My biggest weakness is prepositions. Yeah, and so that just means like if you have questions about prepositions, you can actually do that. And the book shows you how to do all of that stuff. That's why I wrote it. So again, that way people don't have to look for, specific content. If you watch my videos about prepositions, you will learn more about that as well. But it's again, answering the questions when you learn so that you don't get stuck when you speak. If you still have questions about prepositions, don't try to answer them in conversations. That's just going to be a lot more difficult for people. But if you can answer them before you speak, obviously it will be a lot easier for you. Let's see. And Nervous says, hello, I think one should prepare for only IELTS or CEFR speaking, or one should just improve speaking through real life and real context naturally. Well, I guess it depends. Like for me, I remember taking the Japanese exam. This is just regular language exam, but it was a lower level of it many years ago. That was maybe 20 years ago I took that test. But it was just to see if I could do it. And so some people need to take a particular test for something. Other people follow a test because it gives them a kind of schedule or particular content to follow. But if you are interested in certain things and you don't need to prepare for a certain test, I would just focus on the same thing I talk about in the book, which is figuring out what content you're interested in and then just being systematic about how you learn. So you don't have to spend lots of time like studying for a particular test. Again, like if that's the goal, if you have to do that, then, pick whatever test you have to do, like for a job or university or something like that. But for most people, like I'm not studying for a particular test right now. I'm thinking, like, what kinds of vocabulary are appearing in my life? So what do I see regularly on TV? What are people talking about around me? That kind of thing. So I know, for example, this weekend, I'm going to a wedding party, I think. And I'm not really practicing for that. Like, I kind of know, like, and I don't have to do anything, but it's just talking with family members and things like that. And often when we get together, we talk about, like what's going on, or like it's kind of like a family reunion kind of thing. And so I'm talking about what are people up to, or what are they doing in school or work or other things like that. And so there are specific things that if I needed to, I could prepare for that in advance. But yeah, that's the basic idea. But focus on the thing you actually need for whatever it is. Nauk says, you skipped my question. Oh no. I skipped the question. Oh no. Okay. Could you explain the grammatical structure of the sentence that is, people have trouble speaking, especially the function of the word speaking? Is it a participle that modifies the noun people? That's a great question. Now, this is the perfect question actually for ChatGPT. I don't know why you would ask me this. So this is one of those things where, like, if you care about the specific, like, let me tell you what part of speech something is, if you need to know that because maybe you are a linguist or something, I would ask ChatGPT. Like, just take that exact question and put it in there, and it will give you a straight answer about that. But if you want to be able to use the grammar correctly, follow what I'm recommending you do. So even as I try to learn, if I want to learn things in Japanese with ChatGPT, it's often quite difficult because it's trying to tell me things like that, like what is the predicate, or what is the subject, or what is this, and it's trying to give me rules. So if you care about that, then just go like ChatGPT is a great place to get those kind of questions answered. I don't want to spend time doing that. It's not what the purpose of this video is, but you will get plenty of good answers from ChatGPT if you want to know that kind of stuff. Let's see. Anyone is here? David says, yep, the certainty is clearly important, but the aha moment seems to be a random process. Thus, how to have automatic system learning process, which I think is the very vital point. Yeah, so I don't know if you have my book or not, but yes, that's exactly what I talk about in the book. And so it's basically an aha moment generator, which is when you're learning by yourself, the best thing you can do, because you don't really know what you don't know, and that's kind of a tricky thing about language learning, Obviously, it's easy for me to give other people aha moments because I can tell where their issue is, and also I know about the language. But if I don't know about that, the best way to do that is to get good comparisons, and I show people systematically the different kinds of ways you can get aha moments from content. So it's, yes, for many people in everyday life, it feels random because most people don't know how to generate those as easily as they could be generated. And so obviously a teacher can do that best. These are what I call fluency triggers. So when I'm actually giving someone a specific example and I'm generating the aha moment for them, I'm triggering that. So I call that a fluency trigger. But the second best thing when you don't know the language yourself is to get naturally varied review. So I explain exactly how that works in the book. I remember another teacher telling me this same thing and saying, aha moments seem awesome, but they also seem random. How do you deal with that? And I said, actually, it's quite simple to generate those on your own, and that's what the book explains. So if you don't have the book already, I highly recommend you get it because it explains exactly how that works. All right, how much British English do you understand, Bob? I don't know who Bob is. In percentage terms, how much would you say you understand? I'd say probably 98%, I guess, probably 99% of British English. Only some maybe slang or something that I don't know, but that would be the same as like me coming from one part of America and, another part of the United States is like they have a different word for something that I just don't know, but most of the language is going to be the same like that. It wouldn't be different. Let's see. And Umbrella says, what do you think of recording ourselves while we talk, then reviewing the recording? Is it an effective way to improve? I think you can do that, but I would much rather spend my time listening to other people speak. I don't need to hear myself. I can hear myself anytime. I don't really need to do that. Again, like it's a different way of learning where you are trying to kind of use your own speech to improve yourself. And unless you know what to look for, it's more difficult, But if you watch other people who are good speakers, then you know what the difference is between how they are speaking and what you are saying. So I remember like watching an example of Japanese one time, like I used to say like nan pasento, like what percentage of something for like a percentage. And then I heard a Japanese example, which was like nanwari. And I thought, oh, wow, that's like a different way to say it. And that was like a cool way to say it, which was, just a different thing. But because I saw a native speaker say something like, here's a situation and here's the specific vocabulary that you could use there. And it's not the only thing. There are lots of different ways that you might fit like nan-pasento, nanwari, like donokurai or whatever. If I'm speaking Japanese, there are different ways that I could express a particular thing. But me listening to my own speaking and not really knowing how to evaluate that very well is not going to help me. It wouldn't help me. I mean, it's kind of like looking in a mirror and trying to like fix something about yourself where like if I knew how to do that, I don't need to spend my time looking in a mirror. But it's for me, I would much rather hear examples of other people saying something. So if I hear 10 different people say a sentence, then I will understand how to say it also. Hearing just one person, I will really try to match that person too much, like trying to be too perfect. So this is the problem of one that a lot of people experience, where you learn with one teacher, like even if you have a private teacher, and that teacher gives you a way to say something, but it's slower and easier, and they just make the whole experience like they're trying to be understandable and helpful, but that actually hurts your ability to speak because they're not giving you a whole bunch of different ways of naturally expressing something. That's the whole point of naturally varied review. So we don't want to hear just one speaker. We want to hear a variety of people saying something so that we are prepared for that in real life. All right. So I would think for me, I would not spend time listening to my own speaking unless I don't know, I can't think of a good reason why I would do that, but I'd much rather, and it's a lot easier too, like I don't need to record myself and listen to that. I just listen to other people. The same way you would listen to people singing a song and know whether you were singing the song correctly or not by can you match or try to find something around the way those other people speak. So each one of these people will sound a little bit different. And your voice doesn't need to match any of them perfectly because their voices don't match each other. So you can get, maybe you sound a little bit like this person or that person, but you find your own natural speaking voice that way. So I would do that rather than try to listen to my own speech. And you can hear my speech now. So I was not here last week because I was sick, and I'm still recovering, I guess. And speaking is probably not the best idea for me right now. But I can't stay away. I love to help you all here. All right, here. See if we can get through these last ones. So Deep says, have you ever come across idioms that you didn't know? If so, what did you do to understand them and continue the conversation? Yeah, I guess. Most of the time the idiom kind of makes sense from the context. And if I didn't know something, I would actually maybe even stop the conversation and just say, oh, I've never heard that before. What does that mean? Like if I can't understand it from context. I'll give you an example for the brain stuff in a minute. But you can make it a bit more like actually part of the conversation. If you don't know, you don't need to be shy or embarrassed about that. If you are inquisitive, like you were curious, you want to know what something is, it's okay to ask about that. Let's see, Santiago again. Yo, OG, I started an English licensure. Okay, here in Brazil, do you think it's a good way to get jobs, opportunities, or professional knowledge? No idea. Try it and find out. I don't know. I can't really give advice about things I don't know much about, but I don't know. Look at your local area and see what's useful for people over there. Let's see. Ella Duke says, what is the difference? So you would say difference between below and underneath. They have the same translation in my language. Yeah, sometimes they can be the same kind of thing. Below versus underneath. This is another good one for ChatGPT, actually, just so I don't spend much time on it. But there's a simpler question than the previous one. I think I gave an example of this before in another video. But under, and this is a tricky thing. I would need to take some time to think about some edge cases where something is not where something could be underneath something but not below it, or vice versa. I don't know. Let me think about that. But if you ask ChatGPT, because this is a good kind of edge case. So an edge case. This is where you think most of the time below and under and underneath they would mean the same thing, but there might be some time where one means something slightly different. I don't know. So those are called edge cases. It's near the edge of something. So not here in the middle where we would find most examples, but this is an edge case about something. So ask ChatGPT about that, because I'm trying to think, is there a time when I would use under but not use below or underneath? Yeah, generally, physically and figuratively, we could use them both the same way. But that's interesting. How did your language if your language translated them both the same way, it's sometimes there are just multiple ways. Actually, most times there are multiple ways to express something. But ChatGPT is good for thinking of specific edge cases like that. So ask ChatGPT. Let's see. Do native English-speaking children have to study English in school? If so, how do they study it? Yeah, they have to take grammar classes and things like that, and they study it the same way people learn it. They learn this is a past participle, and this is this thing, and here's how to use the the grammar and all that. And often children learn how to speak, but they're learning to write in school. That's not a natural skill. People can learn how to speak even if they can't read or write, so they have to go learn those things in classes. And that's typical to what people would do, even in different languages. You're learning the linguistic names for things and getting practice with it that way. So it's similar kind of stuff that most people don't like. Typically that class is called English, and then higher levels is like English literature, if you want to study reading like that. Wakil says, is reading better, or you mean better than shadowing? It depends. And this is one of the things I talk about in my book. Like, here's what most people think is happening for language learning. They're like, is this method better than this method, or that method, or that method, or that method? And the truth is, what you're really looking for is the thing in the middle, which is, do I feel sure about using something or not? And so if I said, like, what color is this marker, the best way to learn that is not through shadowing. It's just to look at the marker and see what it is. So in that case, looking is the method that gives you certainty. But in another case, reading might be the thing that gives you certainty. And so learners should be getting a mix of different things, because the goal is, how can we get to feel sure about something as quickly as possible? We're really just trying to answer questions, not think about methods. So I don't really spend my time saying, like, you should do journaling, or you should do writing, or you should do shadowing. And that's why in Fluent for Life, people will do lots of different things, because it depends on, and even in the videos I make, I will teach in different ways depending on the thing I'm trying to help people understand. So if I can just show people something very easily, I will do that, like I'm doing in the Visual Guide to Phrasal Verbs. It's a visual course, because phrasal verbs can be and should be understood that way. That's the fastest way to answer your questions about it. Prepositions are a similar kind of thing. And so it's not like, should I listen to a podcast or should I shadow someone else? What is the question you're trying to answer? Either you are feeling more sure about using your words, or you are not, but that's the basic idea. Let's see, and Tom says, hit the like button, everyone. Yes, if you enjoy it, please do. Get well soon. Yeah, well, thank you. I'm trying. And then I come back and do a video. But thank you. What are the differences between how native speakers study English and how non-native speakers study it? Well, again, like, if you're in, the main difference is that people who are studying the language as a native speaker, like, they already know how to speak. They already know what's correct. They maybe just don't know the names for things, or when they're writing, they might make a different, like, they might make a mistake, like a spelling mistake, like than versus then or something like that. And so that's the main difference. So when you're learning as a non-native, you're trying to do both of those things at the same time. You're trying to understand the language and learn the rules for it. But a native speaker, they already understand the language. Now they're just like, okay, this is the name for this particular rule. Like, people learn what is a noun or a verb or an adjective or whatever, and that's the kind of thing people do in classes. So it's not really much different than what you would do. It's just they're doing it in English. But it's easier, obviously, because they already know the language. Great to see you online, says Caesar. And Ella again says, why do English speakers say they match them, but they go with them when... Okay, maybe your comment got cut off. Again, remember, native speakers, and you probably do this in your language too, if you get 10 different people to describe something, each one of them will say it in probably a different way. Some people might say it the same way, but other people will not. This is another thing, like, I don't know if I put this story in my book or not, but I think maybe I did. It was a while ago. But there was a specific... it was like a sports documentary where people were talking about how a player did something amazing, and then they thought, like, the player had the presence of mind to do something. And everybody, like, the documentary showed a couple of different people using that exact expression because it was so perfect for that situation, but it's still not the only way people can say something. So remember, when natives are learning something or non-natives are learning English, typically they're learning through a translation instead of getting a wide range of examples that natives would naturally get. So of course, natives feel prepared for a wide range of different examples in real life because that's how they learn. They spend time watching movies and they see how different people would express the same kind of thing. Like if I find something and or I have a mix or a match or a pair or whatever I'm trying to express, all of those things can be different and still be correct. So instead of thinking as a non-native where you're trying to get a translation, just think, in this situation, how do people express that? And there are lots of different ways that can be correct. Probably an infinite number of them, really. But they're a general kind of smaller number that people typically use. But again, I talk about this in the book. And if you're curious, if you do not have the book, it will show you exactly how to do this. So that's what I call learning from situations rather than trying to go from the pieces of the language, like the vocabulary or the grammar or the pronunciation. All right. I'm going to have only 5 minutes for the actual brain stuff that people came for here. Let's see here. Do you offer in-person English classes in Japan? No, I don't do any of that. Han, what do you think is the most important thing to do when studying English to become fluent in listening and speaking first? Just pick a particular thing and you get fluent in particular things. So try not to get fluent in English, get fluent in a particular thing. Like, how do I talk about this? Or how do I use this word or something? You become fluent in individual words and phrases. And then over time, you become better at understanding the language. If you have my book, you will see exactly how this works. But again, it's not really trying to become fluent in English. Becoming fluent in a language is kind of a product of becoming fluent in lots of pieces of it. And over time, those pieces work together very well. That's your magnetic vocabulary where you know things very well, so you can use them very well. All right. And Pankwi says, how can I apply the naturally varied technique with the immersion technique? Because sometimes I just want to sit back and relax and enjoy watching shows. Yeah, again, you don't have to force yourself to do this all the time. I watch things in Japanese that I don't understand every part of. It's okay. Sometimes I'm just trying to relax myself. But often, I recommend people usually watch shorter things. Like for me, for Japanese, like a shorter TV show, like a cartoon like Sazae-san, because those episodes are shorter. So I watched one recently and just watched the same episode 5 times just because I was interested in it. And each time I was looking for something different. But a kind of easier thing than that is just watching content about a particular thing. And you will naturally absorb the vocabulary without trying to think about it. So the more important thing is finding content you like and then focusing on that. So it's just more difficult to watch a longer movie because there are so many pieces of that. But maybe shorter clips of people talking about things like I talk about in the book on YouTube, that kind of thing. But you can find basically anything you're interested in and see people talking about it. And then I've watched videos about all kinds of stuff, about things I already know about, but I learned a little bit more each time, And so that's something you can do with smaller content, but that's how I would do it. So you can get both immersion and naturally varied review at the same time. Let's see. And Diep says, what do you think about majoring in communication studies at a university in the U.S. for non-native English speakers? Is it too difficult? I wouldn't know anything about majoring in communication, even for native speakers. I don't know. But you could watch people on YouTube talking about that, I bet. And they would tell you more than I could tell you. Han says, do you think you will ever offer Zoom English classes in the future? I doubt it. I don't know why I would offer those. I don't know. Maybe we'll see, but probably not. I mean, there wouldn't really be a need for that. Why would you want live classes if your questions are answered by something like Fluent for Life, or even, you know, when we answer, like we answer learner questions all the time for people in that program. So if they have questions about whatever, or they send us mails about stuff, we can answer that. Let's see here. Do I have to learn the IPA? I don't know the IPA, and I don't recommend people learn it unless they're trying to learn multiple languages. But if you need to know the IPA, then you can do that. But if you're just trying to learn how to read and spell and pronounce English, just get Frederick. Well, I removed it, but yeah, that's the app. You can click on the link in the description below this video to get. But it's much easier just to learn it the same way a native would, just efficiently, so you can discover how it works. Could you please explain the differences in pronunciation between American and Canadian dialects? That's beyond the scope of this video. But I'm sure you can find lots of videos that do cover that. And again, for instance, ChatGPT says underneath usually refers to something physically in contact or very close below something. The keys are underneath the book. Yeah, like, I mean, it could like, all right. So that's a good kind of edge case right there. So I can imagine like two examples here. Maybe this will help you understand it. So if we have, make sure this fits over here. Let me erase this. And I think I did talk about this in another preposition video, I think, where I was giving examples with some vehicles I had. If you look on the channel for that, search for prepositions, you'll probably find that. But let's say we have two objects here. So the circle and the square, it's the same thing, but they're slightly separated. Here I could still say the square is underneath the circle. I could also say for this one, the square is underneath the circle. Here I could still say the square is below the circle. The square is below the circle. So both of those, like, you could use that, and natives would use those interchangeably. I bet if you asked ChatGPT, it would probably give you that. But like, it's correct. Like below is more like saying something is immediately. And this isn't even like perfectly true either, but generally I could move this square anywhere under here. Like, still the square is below the circle. And even if I put the square over here, it's still kind of like under this particular space. Like if I put the square over here, it would not be below or underneath. But the square over here, you could still say it's below or under both of these things. But generally, I guess, I could see natives saying that, well, this square is kind of underneath the circle. I don't know. It's one of those things, like in a conversation, you will hear both examples of that. So it's less important to try to think about what is precise here, if there is something precise, than seeing different people talking about stuff like that. And I bet if I were having a conversation with ChatGPT, I would like explain this, and it would agree with me. And again, like, something can be under something or be below without it necessarily like how close it is to that thing. Like, I could have like this room I'm in right now is like below the stars or underneath the stars, and I'm not close to those, but I could still use both of those things. But like under, yeah, again, both of those things could really be used. And again, this is why it's important to see how different natives would express it. And if people would use it both, like use both ways, then you're probably fine using it both ways as well. But yeah, like underneath doesn't necessarily physically need to imply that. And if it did, like maybe the original meaning of it is like that, like under versus underneath. The modern usage of it, people would not be that strict with the usage, I don't think. But yeah, the good things to think about, and ChatGPT can be useful for looking at stuff like that. Let's see. Pleasure to listen to you online. It says Soline, if I'm getting that name correct. It's a challenge for teachers to follow schools' materials and imply naturally varied review principles. Any tips? What would be a challenge about that? Again, it just depends on what you're interested in covering, but you can find many examples of basically anything. And I show how to do this in the book as well. So whether you're teaching something basic or even like specific topics, you can find content about anything. So if a learner individually learning could do that, then they would find that quite easy to do. It should be pretty easy for a teacher as well. How's it going? Says Salrix and Combat History. That's interesting. Why can't adults acquire languages as children can? I don't know that's true. Who told you that? And that's a general belief that people have, but it's more like, I don't know, adults basically do things in a more, it's adults don't have to do things the way kids do, and I talk about this in the book a lot, about how adults have advantages that children do not, and the most important one is that you can actually choose what you learn. And so children just kind of watch whatever is available, or their parents tell them to do something or whatever. But as an adult, you can choose what you learn, and so that's how you can actually get fluent faster than a child. So there's not some kind of advantage that they have that we do not. Teacher, when do you start the live stream so I can always attend on time? I don't know. It's usually like 9:30 Japan time, but we'll see how much longer I do these, depending on how much more I need to do after the book is finished. But often these videos have been useful for me, I think even more so than learners, because it's letting me test ideas and explain things and see if people get them or not. But I think basically now most people get the ideas I talk about in the book, and people are understanding it. Do you watch and enjoy American comedy TV shows or stand-up comedy? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I watch American stuff. How many vocabulary words are sufficient for fluent English? Try not to think about vocabulary in general and just think, are you fluent in particular words and phrases or not? So don't worry about specific, like how many words or whatever you need. If you need an answer to that question, just use Google. But learners who actually want to speak know that they should get fluent in particular things that they want to say. That's the idea. It doesn't really matter how many you know. Hello, Drew. This is Ricardo. Nice to see you there. Diep again. What do you think about, what do you think about studying English through English music? Is it a good way to improve English pronunciation? What other ways would you recommend to improve pronunciation, listening, speaking? Those are all things I go through in the book. So if you don't have the book already, get the book. It'll tell you how to do that. But again, remember, as I mentioned before, the idea is not a particular method. It's, is this thing helping me answer my questions or not? Do I feel sure about using the vocabulary or not? Sergey says, the main goal is to teach people to speak the language fluently and apply their knowledge in real life. Yes, that should be the goal of learning, but for most people it is not. Let's see, Ty again says, how can I think in English 100% instead of translating from my native language when I speak? You have to learn in English. That's the idea. You can't really force yourself to speak in English or think in English, but you will do that naturally as you learn more in English. And the book talks about how to do that as well. Accident and incident difference. Google that. If you're using me for definitions, that's an easy thing to get a definition for. Now, I've already spent too much time answering questions, so now I'm going to go through the actual content of this video very quickly. All right, now this was more content that I basically cut from the book because it's already basically established in the book through experience. So people need to understand that if they feel sure about using their words and it's possible to do that, then you will feel confident when you speak. But the brain science behind this stuff and why it works didn't really need to be explained again, but I thought I would just talk about it in this video very quickly. But again, the first thing is connections. And so when people think about language learning, what we're really trying to do is form a connection with something else. And a strong connection is something new that you're learning is able to connect with something you already know in your mind. And proximity, so proximity means how close something is, like even the word like approximate, it's like generally close to or similar to something, around the meaning. Proximity is like, here's a word in English and here's a word in your native language. Just having a translation or a definition of something is often not useful for people because there's nothing in this new language that's actually connected to this word other than the fact that they just mean the same thing. But there's nothing actually connecting that with something in your brain, and that's why these connections are easily broken, because they are so weak. So the foundation of learning is building connections with things in your mind already, that you already know. And so part of what makes aha moments happen is you're typically taking information that's new and connecting it with something or a process or some understanding that you already have. And when you do that, that's how you make those connections a lot stronger. And now I don't have a lot of time in this video to explain this. I just want to get through this pretty quickly. But the next step of this is the actual discovery part. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, when you're able to discover something, that makes those connections even stronger. So if I learn something, like maybe you watch a TV show and a character says something and you realize, oh, like that's a new way of saying something. You discover that information, and because you got new information and you discovered it, your brain is connecting with both of those ideas. So there's the new information, but there's also the fact that you did it and you feel positive and happy about something when you make a discovery like that. So it's easy for teachers to tell you how something works, but if you can actually get a real discovery, and even when I teach, what I'm actually trying to do is put what I call the keystone in something. So my job is to build a bridge for people, and that way it's easy for you as the learner to put the keystone in here. And so you still get to discover or make the connection or solve the puzzle or the riddle or whatever, and that thing is what you get to discover. So even if I build all this other stuff over here, this last part is the thing you discover, and that's what makes it easier for you to remember that information. So I want to help you make connections and then lead you to the discovery, and that's what you should be doing as you're getting naturally varied review. The point is to give yourself these discoveries, because it's not just the information, it's also you feeling good about it because you discovered it. But again, even as a teacher, so I know some teachers are watching this as well, your goal as the teacher is to make the bridge available so that the student can easily drop in that last piece. You don't want to just give them the whole thing, because that's just like giving a translation, and nobody cares about that because they didn't learn anything, they didn't discover anything, they didn't really make a connection. But if you can help build the connection so that that last piece is easy to drop in there, that's how you can make someone a confident speaker. So that's the first and the second one. And I've already given examples of these in this video already. And the last part of this, and this is the interesting one, is that this is an ongoing process. And I can't think, what's a good way to describe this? It's basically like, it's like pattern, P-A-T-T, pattern building. So it's pattern building over time. So you can think about your brain acquiring information in layers, and with each layer, your brain is continually testing how something works or what something means. And so if I give, like, here's a circle, 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 what is the next one going to be? Your brain is guessing, okay, it's another circle. But if I give you another one here and this turns out to be a triangle, now I've scrambled your brain a little bit, and you think, okay, like it's not just circle, 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 maybe there's a larger pattern here or something. So your brain is constantly scanning for new information that helps you understand things better. And that's how we understand things and become better at using the language over time. So we're building connections, and obviously the more connections you make, the better. But that happens with the pattern building process as well. So we know that the brain is going to be constantly looking for new examples and really feeling sure, like, okay, do we really know that for sure? Do we know that for sure? Your brain is looking for certainty. And after enough time, you should feel pretty sure that you know what something means. There probably will not be some surprises, but sometimes you will. You will get surprises like that, and then your brain will be thinking about how does that work or what does that mean. But these are the three core ideas that drive everything else in the book. And for anybody who is learning things, whether you are a teacher or a student, this is what we are thinking about. So we are trying to build connections. You want to help people discover things, whether you are a teacher or you are discovering them as a learner yourself. And you will continue to refine this process over time. So each time you get a new example of something, even if you have heard a word many times already, if you hear a new example of it, that will help your brain even better to understand how something works. So I know this is a very quick bit here about the brain science, and I had more information about it, but I don't think we need it. I think people understand the idea, especially this video is kind of backwards, I guess. I spent time trying to help people make connections and discover things, and then as we're seeing those examples again and again, it's that pattern building over time. So I didn't think it was really necessary. I basically covered all these things in the book already without needing to go back and talk about how they work. But I thought it might be useful for some people who are interested in that. Anyway, let me take a look at last questions over here, but hopefully that makes sense for people. Do we have, okay, just a few of them left over here. Do you have to prepare your mind to watch a film? No. I mean, don't overthink this. This is basically just, you can think about watching a movie just for enjoyment, and you don't have to think, okay, like I need to be focusing on language learning for this. Sometimes you just watch a movie to watch a movie. Other times, maybe you were trying to be a bit more productive about that, and you're picking something smaller or shorter and specific and getting a variety of examples of those, because that will be a lot easier for you to kind of focus on something and even still naturally come to enjoy it. But I'm not like preparing in any special way for any kind of content. Prashant, forgive me if I just see all the letters as one thing, but are you self-educated? We have never been taught this in schools. It's very effective, helped me a lot. Well, I mean, I don't know, I went to college, but like for language learning, since I am a language learner as well, and I struggled for many years to learn different languages, I thought I was crazy because it seems like I'm going to these classes and nobody's actually teaching me anything. I thought, what is the purpose of the learning if it's basically the same information you find in a textbook? So what is the point really? And so for many years I did that and failed to learn different languages. Even if I could understand some things in Spanish or French or whatever, I couldn't speak because I wasn't sure about what I wanted to say. And I didn't know that at the time. But like most people, I just thought this is how language learning is. And most people just accept that. It's like you learn stuff, but you don't really feel sure about using it. But maybe if you speak more, you will. But if you think about that, that really sounds backwards and strange, because you shouldn't need to speak to become a good writer. You shouldn't have to do that. Like if you're writing is like a pre-speaking thing, or at least it doesn't require you to speak. I can think or I can write something without saying a word. And so if I still have issues with my speaking or thinking, it means I actually don't understand something correctly. But that's not a speaking problem. The only thing is, it seems like a speaking problem because most people just don't recognize it. When they're thinking to themselves, there's no pressure if they get something wrong, or they don't even know they say something incorrectly. because they're, like if I think about something, I could say some Japanese in my head and not know if it's correct or not, and it doesn't matter because nobody is judging my Japanese, so I don't really know. But when I get into a conversation, that's when the problems actually appear, in addition to new problems that come up from just unpredictability. And I talk about all this in the book. But yeah, like the reason I came to realize all this stuff is because I had to think about it for me learning languages. And I just thought, either I'm crazy, and I don't think I'm crazy, but either I'm crazy or there's something missing here. And a lot of people are missing this. And the thing that I thought about, and you see this story and you understand exactly how it works, and it's kind of self-taught in that way, or at least it was self-discovered. When I had aha moments about language, I would think, wait a minute, this is me actually understanding something before I speak, or at least without me speaking. So I don't need to talk to feel better about using the language. I'm actually able to understand the language and then feel sure about speaking. So like people have already talked about this before, like Stephen Krashen talks about comprehensible input, but a lot of people get stuck on input and they don't know how much input do you need, what kind of input, or like what is really the purpose of the input. It's like, it's not just so you can understand other people, it's so you actually answer the questions you have that stop you from speaking. And so when I thought about this personally, that's how I went through this process of trying to understand how to learn. And then ultimately I discover, most people don't even expect learning to help them speak. Like I did not. I didn't even think about it. I just thought, okay, you go to classes, they don't really help you, and then it's your job to go out and speak. But, I mean, doesn't that feel kind of strange, like when you think about it? And so when I thought about it, I said, this is kind of odd, because for many years I've been teaching this same way. And so, like, when I realized, okay, why is this not working for me as a learner? And I can see people learning different languages and struggling to express themselves because the learning itself is not actually helping them. And so they're trying to get fluent in the most difficult way possible, which is through speaking. But it's like, it'd be like you practicing for a performance, like a play or like a theater play, like the first day you're going to have actual people come watch the show and you're just practicing to say the lines properly, and you don't even know your lines very well. It's what it feels like for most people to speak when they don't feel sure about their words. And so it just seemed like, wait a minute, there's something crazy happening here. This doesn't make any sense. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to figure this out. I want to know if I'm actually seeing this correctly, or if I'm wrong, or if there actually is a better way to do it. Because I had already been like teaching people well and kind of doing this stuff, like intuitively. So just doing it naturally for people. So yeah, I mean, as far as the book goes, you will probably not find anybody else talking about this because most people are still thinking in the kind of bigger picture of learning doesn't actually help you. Although they wouldn't tell you that they're just not thinking about it like that. Like I recently I was listening to a guy talking about his language teaching business. And he basically said the same thing. Like he doesn't expect learners to do well because language learning is hard. And I'm just thinking like, wait a minute, there's nothing intrinsically difficult about language learning. It's just that learning doesn't actually prepare most people because it doesn't actually answer their questions. And that's it. And so if you can answer your questions before you speak, then it will solve the issue for you. But so many people struggle with this, and in every language learning, and this is kind of a broader problem with education in general, that I felt like it was time to write the book. So that's why I wrote it. So it took me a long time. I didn't actually want to write a book. I thought maybe this would be easier, but I really needed a book to explain all this to people. But if you start from chapter 1, go through to chapter 7, and then chapter 8, when I release it, you will actually understand how all this works, and you will think, oh, actually learning can and should prepare you to speak, but most people don't expect it to. Most people don't even think about it. But yeah, that's why I wrote the book. So in the future, I imagine more people will begin to adopt this way of learning. They will actually think, oh, like I should actually help my students. And I know a lot of teachers are not thinking they're not helping, but like they could do kind of a better job of actually helping people feel sure about using the words. But most people don't even, like teachers just don't even assume this is the case. Really, they just think it's about giving information or activities or skills or things like that. Like here's some, if you watch YouTube videos, you click on some link to download some, little worksheets or something like that. But is that helping you feel more sure about using the language? If it is, great. A lot of it is not, though, I would imagine. Anyway, I'm really losing my voice over here. Ugh. All right, I'll try to get through these last couple of questions here, but let's see. I find the American accent very easy to understand, but I have difficulty understanding British accent. What do you think this is? It's just because you're not used to it, that's all. Just like regular people in the United States will travel to different places in America and not have like complete understanding of what other people are saying. Lots of people can have issues like that. So it's like anything else. If you're not used to it, and this is why learning should prepare you for that. Like in Fluent for Life, you will hear British speakers and Australian speakers and New Zealand and Canada and different places in the United States. Because I know that if I can prepare you for that kind of stuff before you speak, you will feel a lot better when you get into conversations because you'll be prepared. The whole point of learning is to prepare you for communication. At least that's what I do. Like I'm not trying to prepare people for tests. I'm trying to prepare them for real communication because it can and it should. Grammar and vocabulary are studied in the context of their use without detracting from speech practice. Yeah, and you can learn and understand grammar without needing to necessarily know what the names of the rules are. And again, that's how natives learn their languages. And they may not know, like, okay, this is the past perfect or whatever, but they can use it. So you can do both of those things. And George, let's see, children will adjust each other's speaking level harshly that adults don't. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa. I think isn't that a Harry Potter reference? Yes, I mean, well, people can be harsh at any age, But again, all the more reason. So if you're worried about other people judging your English, then prepare yourself for that before you speak. If you're worried about that, then you don't have to get into conversations and try to use speaking practice to improve. It's just going to make it more difficult for you. Try to use the thing that you have, the actual way to improve. And most people simply don't think they can do it, or they just don't know. No one has actually told them how to do that. But that's what the book is for. Get the book if you don't have the book. I spent 20 years doing this so I could help you people. That's why I'm here. And this is the same stuff I use myself as well. Let's see, ChatGPT says this software is compatible with Windows 10. But when translate the sentence from my native language sentence, this software is compatible to Windows 10. That's interesting. Huh. Yeah, spend some time with ChatGPT. If you're looking for examples like this, like push back on ChatGPT and ask it questions and just like, okay, how is this thing? Give me a case or an example where this is not true. Like I was saying before about edge cases. So ask ChatGPT for some edge cases, or to think about like when would that not be true, something like that. Again, there are different ways that you might translate something from one language to another. And even within English, different people can express the same thing in different ways. But most of them are going to be grammatically correct. How can I turn passive and inactive vocabulary into active vocabulary that I can recall quickly? And basically, when I practice speaking, I won't need to use unfamiliar words. Just do what I recommend in the book. You get naturally varied review. You spend more time just being exposed to that specific vocabulary in a variety of ways. So this is not taking a flashcard and repeating it. You need a variety of examples that will help you understand something. like I was watching a Sazai-san, so this is a cartoon here in Japan, a couple days ago, and like the new word, like one of the new things I learned was the word shikisha. So this is a Japanese word for a conductor, like a music conductor. But I heard like 10 different characters use the word. And so I hear like this guy say, and that guy, and that guy, and that guy, and it's like, oh, shikisha, 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 shikisha. And so I wasn't repeating it like a typical flashcard. I was hearing people naturally use it, and in a wide variety of ways from a wide variety of people. That's how you prepare yourself so that stuff becomes automatic for you. Han again says, did you study English grammar when you were a child? And how did you study English grammar? I answered this already. But yes, I had to do that in school. Greetings. Very interesting. From now on, I will learn new vocabulary, interconnecting every one of them. I will see the output. Yeah. So again, the idea is like learn something until you don't feel unsure about using it. You know? So if you learn something, maybe you forget it, maybe you hear it again, you remember it a little bit better. If you feel sure about using it, then it will be pretty easy to remember. You might forget it, even if you understand how to use it. But still, the goal is to answer any questions you have about the language. And a lot of that is things that you already know but don't feel sure about using. So if you answer those questions first, you will speak more fluently faster. That's one of the main ideas in the book. So if you want to get fluent faster, take the vocabulary you already know but don't feel sure about and get more examples of it. Most people don't want to do that because it seems like repetition or it's boring or whatever. But again, it's answering the questions you have. And that's a lot faster than trying to learn completely new information. Marco says, hi, greetings from Germany. Hope you'll live stream regularly every week. Drew, what is context? It's kind of the area within which something happens. So it can be the broader idea or the story or whatever. And then Han says, do you have an audio version of your books? When I finish with The Strangest Fluency Secret, I will have an audio book too. But I'm guessing what I may do is have like 10 different versions of it. So people can actually listen to, like multiple versions of the book. I don't know if I will do that or not, but that would be very like on theme for what I do, having people listen to a wide variety of examples so you can hear different people doing it. It'd probably be with AI voices though, but still AI voices are now like really to the point where it sounds good enough that you would think, oh, that actually sounds like a real voice. But we'll see. Anyway, look at that. We got to the end of comments, and my voice is about to die on me. But thank you all for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you have enjoyed this video. If you have, do click the like button. You can also click on the link in the description below this video. You can get Frederick. You can get the book. If you're new to this idea about learning actually preparing you to speak, do click on the link and read the book. I made it for you. I made it for everybody who feels like learning is harder than it should be. And people feel pressure to speak when they don't actually know their words very well. When you should be doing the opposite. Feel sure about things first and then start pushing yourself to speak more. But it should feel like a very natural process if you make learning and speaking very similar. All right, look at that. I think we finished though. Anyway, have a fantastic day. I'm going to have to turn the camera around, see hopefully I can turn this off, but see if we can figure that out. Anyway, bye-bye. All right, how do I stop this thing? Now I got to see.